Hello lovelies, and welcome to a brand new video. You may notice that my background setup is a little bit different, and it's because I've moved. That's what I've been working on the past couple of weeks. We literally just moved across the street. So I kind of thought, oh, this is going to be so much easier than, an actual move that's miles down the road, but it's actually pretty much the same. Putting everything into boxes, lugging it into a vehicle, and then carrying it in. But I'm so thankful and so grateful because the space that we have now, I have my own room that I can use for an office, a private office. For those of you who weren't aware, before my last apartment, I was operating in like the dining room, and the dining room and living room and kitchen are all one space. So it was almost impossible to do readings, especially private readings. My husband works from home, and then of course my daughter has been homeschooled this year because of COVID. So there was a lot of workaround I had to do, but now I have my own little office space, and it's so quiet and nice and private. And so this is the first video that I'm doing from my new place. And I know I'm rambling on a lot, but I just like talking to you guys. So anyways, I wanted to let you know about that. So let's get into today's video topic. I haven't done this on my channel before. I've done it for private readings, plenty of private readings. We're going to receive a message from a deceased loved one or an ancestor of yours. And I felt called to do 7 piles today. That way we could ensure that we were being highly specific and that every message was tailored to you guys, the viewer. And so I'm excited to see what your ancestors, your deceased loved ones would like to say to you, maybe provide you some words of comfort and healing. And I'm expecting lots of messages of love and support as well. So I love you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and flash an image of the pile so you can calm your mind, tune in to your third eye, your intuition, and choose the pile that's for you, okay? I love you guys, and I will see you at your piles. Timestamps are down below, okay? Love you. Hi, pile number 1. Welcome to your reading. I can't wait to see who comes through for you. We are going to roll the astrological die today, as well as I have some words here, some adjectives that your loved one would like to convey to you to help empower yourself, things they want you to practice embodying for yourself. So we'll pull these at the end, like 3 or 4 of those. But let's start with rolling the die, I guess. Ooh, this one completely rolled off. Okay, all right, so we have Venus in Gemini in the 11th house. So for some of you, this Venus represents, feminine energy as well as relationships and love life. So it could be a female ancestor, deceased loved one that's wanting to come through, or someone that you had a very strong relationship with, perhaps romantic as well. The 11th house rules are kind of friendship groups, circles, organizations. For some of you, this could have even been someone that you worked with and were close to. And Gemini represents lots of like chit chat, talkative energy. It also represents kind of like our neighborhood and our high school and elementary school days. And there's also a duality here as well. It feels like there was a duality to this relationship, not just with the Gemini, but with that 11. Something feels split. It's almost like they're wanting to acknowledge that there were 2 sides to this relationship. And it feels like maybe it wasn't something you guys had discussed openly. They want to acknowledge how you felt about the duality of this relationship. I wish I could be more specific. Maybe the cards will get into that. But there's some sort of switch that I keep seeing kind of flip on, off, on, off. Maybe it was a very hot and cold type of thing. I'm not sure. But yeah, let's get into the cards and maybe I'll get more context to what they're wanting to talk about. Okay, I want to start with the tarot cards. Okay, we have the Devil card. This is Capricorn energy. Then we have the Empress. This is Venus energy, which came up in the die. Venus is also associated with Taurus and Libra. And then we have the Four of Pentacles. That's more Capricorn energy. And then from my other tarot deck we pulled from, we have the Two of Cups that says love. So yeah, with the Empress, the Two of Cups, Venus, I'm feeling for a lot of you, this was a romantic relationship. Or if not, this was like an ancestor, like a grandparent or something. They're wanting to talk to you about love life and relationships. There's some sort of cycle here. It's almost like a cycle in love life that you are meant to help break. Okay, so something that has maybe been repeating in previous generations. With this Devil card, it's almost like they want to acknowledge, or they want you to acknowledge. Okay, what I'm hearing is you have this great ability to see everyone through their humanness, okay, from a human perspective. And it's really beautiful because you don't have expectations of perfection on people. You understand that no one's perfect, everyone makes mistakes, there is beauty to be seen in all, okay? But they also want to acknowledge on the negative end of this that you tend to associate accepting the imperfections of others as being willing to, it's almost like you have put yourself in some abusive or toxic situations because you're looking at, gosh, I'm so sorry, it's very hard to word this as it's all coming in. Okay, so I'm going to use a metaphor that tends to work best for me. Let's say you're in a relationship with someone, and when the good times are good, man, are they amazing. And this person has so many cool qualities that you would want in a partner, in a person. But there are moments, or maybe it's about half the time, that things are really, really bad in a very toxic way. Because you don't hold these high expectations on people to be perfect, you kind of think, well, I just have to accept that. That's just how people are. You know, everyone's got their good side and their bad side. And while that is true, your ancestor is wanting to, or your deceased loved one is wanting to acknowledge that just because we can understand that people are human and of course are not perfect, doesn't mean that we tolerate unhealthy or toxic behaviors or relationships in our lives. And it feels like this deceased loved one, this ancestor, which again, I'm feeling that it was that she, I'm going to say she, I feel like it's a female. Also, it's going to be two different groups of people here that chose this pile. Either your ancestor did the opposite of you. Your ancestor, your deceased loved one, was the type of person that had these high expectations of perfection on everyone, and any little tiny failure would cause them to say, you're not perfect, I'm out, and bolt. And you coming here to kind of fix and heal that cycle, we're like, okay, it's my job to be more tolerant, more accepting, but now you've gone off into the other extreme. Okay, so it's either that or it's the similarity in that your ancestor was kind of doing the same thing that now you are now doing. And they're wanting you to practice caution in your love life, in your relationships, in your choices in general, to understand that imperfection doesn't mean toxic or unhealthy or trapped or isolated. Okay, those are really negative things. Imperfection is, yeah, someone might mess up here or there, but if they ask for forgiveness, if they start taking steps, tangible steps to work on things and improve things, then sure, you can hold out hope and keep, but it's not your job to just keep being a doormat for people and letting them walk all over you without having any expectation of them apologizing for what they did or making changes. Okay, so you're a very loving soul, a very nurturing sort of person, and your deceased loved one wants to acknowledge this, but they want you to find a balanced, loving relationship, a relationship that equals your energy, this very loving, sweet, harmonious energy. You deserve that. You don't need someone that's perfect, okay? And this could be, with the 11th house, this could be something that's pervasive in friendships, in your love life, in your work life, okay? There's so many different ways that it can apply. And there's something here too they want to talk about with money management, okay? I think a lot of the situations you are in that you feel powerless to move out of have to do they're somehow connected to money. Like, oh, well, I don't have an option to do that because of money. And your deceased loved one is wanting to acknowledge the need for you to really get tangible with your finances, organize with your finances, set up a plan, like empower yourself instead of deciding, no, I'm trapped. See, the devil's got me trapped. You know, saving and organizing my money is not going to help me out of that. The message on the devil card is always that the chains are never tied on these people so tightly that they can't get away if they wanted to. Like, the devil's not going to stop them from walking off. It's really up to them if they want to stay in this toxic cycle or move on. And that's what your deceased loved one is wanting to acknowledge. I'm getting, you know, grandmotherly sort of energy or motherly energy for sure. It doesn't mean that it has to be a female ancestor. If it's a male ancestor, deceased loved one, then it would be someone who has a very feminine and like nurturing sort of energy that goes well with yours. Okay, let's look at the other cards. So from my interactive deck, we have the Jungle Warrior. He's got that like glare in his eyes. And then, oh, yep, look, from the Surrender deck, surrender your full power. The bottom of this card says your life is calling for you to step into your full power rather than playing it small. There is a victimization that's gone on here that your ancestor wants to acknowledge. Your ancestor, sometimes I get a little emotional when ancestors come through in readings because they want to give me the feelings that they feel for you, okay? Your ancestor really feels that you are selling yourself short. This ancestor believes in you so strongly, and watches you live your life and just wishes that you loved yourself enough and believed in yourself enough, just as much as they do, to go after what you want to do. For a lot of you, this ancestor that's coming through feels like someone that was very powerful in their own right in some way. Maybe not in all areas of their life. Maybe they were victimized by their spouse, for example, but very empowered in their work life or their education. This feels like someone that broke down barriers in some sort of way, did something that was like, oh, wow, I can't believe during that time period that this person did that. And they're looking at me and saying, remind them who they come from. Remind them, please, because they seem to be forgetting how powerful they are and how powerful, you know, their own bloodline is, or, you know, your connections or whatever you come from. You are meant to be an extremely dominant, powerful, and adventurous sort of spirit that that doesn't have ridiculously high expectations of people, that definitely acknowledges that people are human, but also doesn't have zero expectations and just allows people to do whatever they want to you or be however they want. Like there needs to be, you have to love yourself is what they're saying. You're really, really great at loving other people through their pain, through their mistakes, and they are really sad that you don't do the same for yourself. That makes them really sad, and they want to see you show love for yourself, show grace for yourself in the way that you so easily do for others. Okay, let's look at the angel card. All right, we have the guardian angel of health. It says, my attitudes about myself are rich in love and acceptance. And that's what your ancestor or your loved one wants most for you. And that's what they're coming through in this reading to say. Start with loving yourself. Start with giving yourself that same advice that you've given to your kids or your friends or your spouse or your coworkers. You're so great at giving it out. Give, right? And then at the end of the day, your cup is empty. It's empty because you forgot to save enough to quench your own thirst. Okay? You don't want to be an empty cup. You don't want to be trapped. And your loved one doesn't want that for you. Health, emotional and mental health. And it all starts with that self-care and self-love and self-nurturance. okay? And then that second step is, what can I do to empower myself further so that I can ensure that I'm no longer feeling victimized by life or by others? How can I make sure I have options at my fingertips so that if I ever need a way out of this toxic job or this toxic relationship, I feel like I have options? That's something that has to be done on a daily basis, is what your ancestor is saying. That is not something that you start doing once things really tank and go down. At that point, it's too late, okay? Keeping yourself empowered and with options at your fingertips is a daily ritual, a daily practice. Do not give your power away, is what they're saying. Don't give it away anymore, okay? They love you so, so much. I'm going to finish off this reading by choosing a few adjectives that your deceased loved one wants to, oh, one already fell, wants you to practice being, at least for today. See if you can keep these 3 words on your mind for today and remind yourself that you are these things, or think about things you can do that would show you, being these things. Okay. Okay, the first word from your ancestor says worthy. How can you make sure that you feel worthy today? Maybe no longer engaging in certain conversations with people, maybe showing yourself that you're worthy, maybe saying it to yourself. Family oriented. Maybe spend some time connecting with a family member. Do a board game with them. Go out to eat with them. Go on a walk. Family oriented for today. Oh, look. And then beautiful. Remind yourself that you are beautiful. No matter what age, no matter what weight, no matter no matter what your wardrobe looks like, nothing. Get rid of all of the superficial vanity and acknowledge the fact that you are beautiful already. And allow yourself to receive that compliment and give it to yourself too. That's what your loved one wants you to do. Worthy, beautiful, and family oriented. These are adjectives that are meant to describe you, from your loved one to you. All right, thank you guys so, so much for coming to this reading. I want to also acknowledge and thank the ancestor and the loved one that came through for you so strongly, so much emotion and love from them. You're so lucky to have them surrounding you and pushing and moving you forward in your life. So I just feel so humbled to be a part of this connection between the 2 of you. So I love you guys so, so much, and I will see you in the next reading. Bye. Hi, Pile 2, and welcome to your reading. Pile 1 was so amazing, and I enjoyed it so, so much. I feel so humbled that your ancestors and loved ones are coming through and allowing me to be a vessel of communication between the 2 of you. So I want to start by just acknowledging and thanking them for their presence here in today's reading. I can't wait to see what messages they have for you. We are going to roll the die first. We'll get into the cards, and then at the end I have this bowl of adjectives that your loved one would like you to practice embodying, to keep at the forefront of your mind, things that describe you or are meant to describe you, okay? All right, let's start with the tarot. Okay, we have a 9 of Wands. Ooh, the Magician. Knight of Pentacles. And then for my other tarot deck, we have the Universe. Okay, let me roll the die real quick. Okay, we have the Sun in Sagittarius in the 12th house. Not surprised, this first card is Saturn in Sagittarius. That's what it represents. We've got Sagittarius energy there. The Magician is Mercury energy, so Gemini and Virgo. And then we also have the Knight of Pentacles energy, which is Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn. And then we have the Universe, so more Saturn energy here. So Sun in the 12th house in Sagittarius. Some of you could have that in your chart, and your ancestor or loved one may just want to acknowledge that very blatantly, that this is, who you are, and this is them coming through. So let that be confirmation if that's the case. For a lot of you, this 12th house energy is about an ancestor from way far back, or it's like someone that you didn't get to meet before you were born, or didn't have maybe they died shortly after you were born. It also could be a father figure that was hidden from view or out of the picture for a lot of you. Father wasn't around when growing up, or that you lost at an early age with that Sagittarius 12th house energy and all this Saturn energy. I could definitely see that. the energy does feel with that sun there, it does feel more masculine, like this is a male ancestor or loved one, or just a more masculine sort of energy coming off of this ancestor. There is a lot of struggle that this loved one wants to acknowledge in your life. It feels almost like it's like you're trying to make some big things happen for your future. I see plans in the works with the Magician and the Knight of Pentacles, okay? But with the Nine of Wands as well as the universe, there is a sense of restriction or exhaustion, just like you feel like you're doing all the things that you're supposed to do. Why doesn't it feel as rewarding as it should? Or why haven't you gotten that payoff yet? Or like, I don't know if I can hold on much longer. Like, it's been so long that I've been working on this or trying to do the right thing, and it just seems like it's never coming. And I think that's why this masculine spirit guide ancestor is coming through to help you with these things. They definitely feel more like it's almost like a distant sort of guiding force in your life, something that you're aiming towards. Feels like you're aiming towards something that you already saw someone else in your family accomplish. Maybe a level of success, or it could be a specific occupation. That's almost what feels so defeating for you, because you are living a life by comparison. And by comparison, you feel that this person that you're kind of aiming your goals after got there so much quicker than you, or did it so much better than you, or they already were successful in this by your age. What's wrong with me? And this loved one's wanting to acknowledge that, but also wanting to let you know that that is not you're comparing your life to a life that's not your own. And your life has its very own roadmap. And totally different destinations, experiences. Like, it's so different. The contrast between what your life's meant to be and what this other person's life is that you kind of look up to or admire is so wildly different. And honestly, what I'm hearing from them is, and yours is supposed to be way better anyways, so just keep holding out. They're like, don't say that too loud, just kind of acknowledge that. Let them know, like, the end of your book is going to be a lot more extravagant and cool and successful than this other person that you've kind of put on this pedestal, or this version of success. So like, if you could just let them know, maybe that would chill them out a little bit. But this loved one feels I like that they feel very matter of fact. I don't feel a lot of emotion here. They feel like a disciplinary force in your life. They're here to teach you practicality. They're here to teach you balance and groundedness, and teach you your limitations. That's another thing they want to acknowledge, is you're in a phase of life where you're learning to acknowledge your limitations and then work with those limitations so that you can be more successful. People who are unsuccessful, it comes from a place of not understanding what strengths and weaknesses they have and just pushing forward, being unaware of those. So your life has had a lot of like limitations, and I do feel like this closing in, and your ancestor, your loved one, is wanting to acknowledge that and say, hey, this is so you can get more in touch with who you are, what your where you fit in the world, what makes you happy, what doesn't, what you are able to accomplish, what you're simply not. And so it's meant to be a really good learning experience for you, not something that you allow to discourage your shine. And with that sun and Sagittarius in the 12th house, there is this feeling of like, just want to run away from everything. There's part of you that you feel very fiery in nature naturally, and that your loved one's also wanting to acknowledge that there was a point in your life where it's almost like you were born this very fiery, like this ball of fire. That's you. There was a point in your life when this loved one entered the picture to start guiding you, where things significantly switched. The fire kind of diffused down, and you kind of became more grounded and earthy and practical, maybe even pessimistic, where before you were just this rolling ball of fire, this firecracker that's like ready to go, whatever it wants to do, don't need any plan, let's just go, experience life, okay? And this ancestor came in at that point in your life where you suddenly, it almost felt like you woke up in a totally different world, where like reality really hit you in the face hard. Maybe it an accidental pregnancy, maybe it was bankruptcy, maybe it was a breakup, like who knows, something really. And that's when this loved one came in and kind of fizzled out your fire a little bit, contained it to a fireplace perhaps, and is helping you balance this fiery masculine spirit with this earthy grounded spirit and build from there. But they don't want you to lose all of your fire or your spark. And it feels like that's what you're doing in a sense, and that's what they want to acknowledge. Like, don't just let the fire burn out. I just wanted to stick your fire into this safe little fireplace for the time being. That's all. I don't want to dump water on it. The fire needs to keep going. That passion, that energy, that drive, it needs to keep going. I'm just here to help contain it, and help build on it and grow it. Whereas before you just, the fire would just be wherever you wanted it to. You guys seem like really fun people, and I like that about you. And this loved one also wants to acknowledge that at your core, you are supposed to be this fun, bright, energetic sort of person, and they don't want you to lose that. They're just here to help you with the practical things. They're really here for your success. They know that's what you want, and they're here to help. So they don't want you to feel like you have this authority figure that's just suffocating you and diminishing you and just breaking you down. They don't want you to feel that way, and they're sorry if you have felt that way. They really want you to know that they're here to work with you and for you. Okay? Okay, let's look at the other cards here. All right, so from the interactive deck, we have this card. The person that's kind of the lifesaver, it looks like, does everything. Here to help. That feels like their energy, actually. Yep. Okay, this is the ancestor or loved one that's come through. This is their energy. It was like there was some sort of crisis or a catastrophe, and they kind of stepped in and said, okay, I'm here to help. And they gladly did it. But you are, I bet your draconic chart is Sagittarius, or your south or north node is Sagittarius, or something there with that, because you want to just explore and be free. But sometimes the freedom starts with limitations and balance. That's what leads us to a place of freedom. And so with your surrender card that they pulled for you, we have surrender to setting limits. And that's what they're here to show you and teach you. How to set limits, conserve your energy in the most efficient way, utilize yourself, walk towards your future in the most effective way. And that's what they're here to help with. It says, it is healthy to set boundaries in relationships. Practice expressing your needs, and remember that no is a complete sentence. So some of you may have this tendency, because you're so like go, 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 do, 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 don't turn down an invite to anything, because why would you do that? Only good, exciting things happen every time you're invited somewhere, or to do something, or to go on a trip, or whatever. Feels like you almost live life by that sort of motto of like, say yes to everything at least once. Where this loved one or this ancestor is wanting to show you the power and the joy and the thrill that can come from feeling very self-contained, feeling very responsible, feeling reliable, saying no sometimes and not worrying about needing to explain why. Like, no, I just can't do that. I'm not capable of doing what you're asking me to do. I'm just not, or whatever it may be. And they want to help you with that. Okay, let's look at what angel is with you all. Archangel Uriel. It says, divine light shines from within. I am eternally radiant, loving, and wise. That goes very well with the sun and the 12th house energy. People with their sun in the 12th house can feel very much like their shine is hidden from the world. Their shine, their success, their own ego and sense of pride, they feel like it gets looked over or missed by the world, by others. And instead of going out and seeking that approval or that acknowledgement from others to feel good about yourself, your ancestor, your loved one, is wanting you to realize that just because some people may not see or acknowledge your shine, that doesn't mean that you aren't shining. Maybe the shine is in your own home, in your own self, in your own mind. We don't have to have someone acknowledge it in order to be like, oh, good, okay, I am shining. See, they can see it too. Sometimes there's things we can see that others can't, or vice versa. Even with our gut intuition, sometimes our gut tells us, I think I need to do this today. I think I need to go there. I think I need to call this person. Now, is everyone else getting that same signal? No. But does it mean that it's not real? No. And that's what you are learning to do with your own sun, your own sun-like energy, is to no longer live in this fear of, if my sun isn't being acknowledged, it's because it doesn't exist. That's not true at all. Not at all. Your sun is in the 12th house, which is a sacred house. That's a house that's about privacy. Your sun shines for you, which is really the only person it needs to shine for. And you know what? I don't doubt that it doesn't shine for others as well. But your perception of how others receive you and your shine feels a little unacknowledged. That's for sure, with the sun being there in the 12th house. Okay, let's look at some of the adjectives that your ancestor and loved one wants you to embody, maybe today or over this next week. All right. Okay, so we have cleansing. So maybe you could do a good cleanse in your home, or take a good bath or shower, whatever that represents to you. A teacher, that's very Sagittarius. So maybe you could upload a YouTube video today teaching people something, or have a conversation in which you are sharing your knowledge about something with others, not being afraid to do that, to let yourself shine a little bit in that way. And then we also have strong. So how can you be strong today? Could it be through working out? Could it be through some sort of physical strength? Could it be through willpower and having, resistance to saying no to certain things, or saying no to that invite and standing strong in what you need to do when you need to do it? So that's what your ancestor wants you to think about today or this next week, how you can cleanse yourself, be a teacher to others in some way, and be strong in what you need to do, okay? What a lovely, lovely reading. I want to give thanks to your ancestor, your loved one, for coming through. They feel very strong, stable, just a really great asset for you to have as you move towards your success. You are meant for a lot of success, and I also need to acknowledge that I feel like those of you specifically who chose this pile, I feel like you hear that in every single reading that you get. And I feel like you assume that, oh, I bet in every pile, the reader probably talks about how successful they're going to be. For some reason, I need to tell you that that's not true at all. It feels specifically like those of you who chose this pile, you end up at the piles that talk the most about how successful you're meant to be, to help drill it into your head that you are meant to be extremely successful. There are meant to be a lot of people that look up to you, that talk about you, that are aware of you, okay? I do need to acknowledge that it feels like your success is going to be, a ladder climb to the top, and it's a tall, steep ladder. I will acknowledge that. It feels like your peak of success could be in 40s or 50s, but when it happens, it's going to boom. Kind of like that guy, Jeff Bezos. Like, when did he create Amazon? I'm pretty sure he was in his 40s or something before, and now something like that everyone who chose this pile is meant to have. So don't be pessimistic when you get to those piles that talk about, oh, how successful, and think, oh, well, they tell that to everyone, I'm sure. Nope. Just for you guys. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. I want to thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to seeing you in the next reading. Bye. Hi, Group 3, and welcome to your reading. I'm so excited to see what ancestor or deceased loved one would like to come through and say to you. We're going to start with the die, get into the cards, and then I have this bowl of adjectives that your ancestor would like you to work on embodying or remembering and acknowledging that you are these things. Okay, let's start with the die. All right, we have Saturn in Libra in the first house. Okay, Saturn in Libra in the first. The first house is about our own identity, the development of who we are versus who others are. And Libra is about the opposite of that. It's about compromise and balance between what we want and what others want from us. It's about marriage and one-on-one relationships. And Saturn is about stability and longevity and perseverance and pushing through and achieving in something. So these could all be topics that this loved one of yours wants to bring up and talk about. Let's look at the tarot cards, and then I'll be able to expand on the die a bit more. Okay, we have 3 of Pentacles, and 6 of Cups. Love that card. Wow, as well as 10 of Pentacles. And then we have 5 of Swords from my other tarot deck. You'll notice it says defeat there. Interesting. I feel like a lot of you that chose this pile, your ancestor, deceased loved one, it could have been a grandparent, like some sort of authority figure, or a teacher, or a boss, or a father, or even a mom, but it feels like some sort of authority. It almost feels like an authority, though, that's connected to lots of different people. What I'm trying to say is, it feels like those of you who chose this pile may come from a line of business owners, or maybe associated or connected to some sort of like family business, like everyone in your family is musicians or dentists, or maybe they play sports, or they're authors. I don't know. It's like some sort of connected family business type thing. And it feels like you've kind of been expected, or felt that you've been expected from a young age, that, oh, okay, well, because I come from this family, I'm supposed to grow up and do this. I guess I just have to do that, or I don't have a choice. Or it's almost like you kind of came into your family with like an idea of, well, how do I just get rid of my own identity so that I can conform to the family identity, okay? And they're wanting to acknowledge that while you come from a really great legacy, I definitely see that, and, you know, a great family in a lot of ways, you don't have to be your family. You seem to think that, well, if I love my family, then it means that I want to be them. And they're wanting to say, like, no, get that idea out of your head. You can love your family, love your childhood, love who each of your siblings and parents and aunts and uncles and cousins grew up to be. You can love them and love all these things about them without feeling a need to also be that. You can love it while also being your own self and your own identity. That is what they want to bring up, because you are different. You're different, okay? You stand out in some sort of way from your family or from the world, and you look at this as like a negative thing. So you're constantly feeling like defeated. Anytime you feel as if you've been exposed as the outlier or the different person, or anytime you've not been able to follow whatever path it was that you set out on, you feel like so defeated, and you're not supposed to be your family, be your mom, be your dad, be your siblings, be anything but yourself. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't meant to go into the family business. I think for a lot of you, you are, but it's going to be about understanding that you bring something new to the family business. You bring something new and unique and different. You bring your own flair, your own spin, you do things your own way, and that's what's going to bring you happiness and being able to do that. For others of you, this really is about acknowledging that I'm not meant to be that at all, and that's okay. I've got to go after what feels right to me. I've got to find my own identity in all of this. Okay, let's look at the interactive cards. Oh, look, we've got the Rebel. That's you, for sure, for sure. And then on the Surrender deck, we have Surrender Your Belief in Scarcity. It says the universe is asking you to open to the infinite nature of abundance. In this way, you can remove blocks in your life and succeed beyond your wildest dreams. Yeah, so perhaps what's keeping you all held back is this belief that, well, this is such a great thing that I can build upon, whatever it is that I inherited from my family or whatever. That's already there. That's kind of easy. I can just add myself to it, and look how safe that would be, because of this belief in scarcity, this belief that, well, if I go out and do this totally different thing on my own, I'm going to fail, I'm going to be defeated, there's not going to be enough to go around, or whatever it is. And this loved one that's coming through, which I'm going to be honest, for group 3, it almost feels like a large group of loved ones, like a very long ancestral line of loved ones coming through to say, hey, you know, we chose you because of your uniqueness, because of what you were going to teach others by standing out and by carving your own identity. So stop feeling this need to cling to the past or cling to what the family's known for, whatever, and just go after what's in your heart and soul. Find yourself. Instead of finding the family and conforming to the family, find you, okay? All right, let's look at the angel here. The angel prince of the south. It says, I let go of all pain and tension as I float in the sea of divine love. Yeah, it definitely feels like you all live in a state of anxiety, I would imagine, because I think you feel like an imposter, a constant imposter in a lot of ways. It's like you wake up in the morning and then you put on the costume that you think will make sure that you blend in whatever way you're trying to, and then you walk out the door and it feels like all day long you're thinking, have they found me out? Did they notice I'm not that? Like it puts you in a constant state of anxiety because you always feel like you're in some sort of costume, because either you are too scared to reveal who you truly are underneath, or you don't like what's underneath, or you just don't even know what's underneath. This has been the costume you've put on for so long, you don't even know what's underneath it. So you're just going to keep wearing it and hoping that nobody notices that it's a costume. Okay, so it's time to let go of all that pain and tension. Show yourself some love. This really feels like the beginning of a journey towards your own self-identity. And I'm also hearing from your ancestors, especially with that Saturn and Libra, that certain relationships are going to be eclipsed or kind of squeezed out of your life until you really get in touch with your own identity and who you are. That is your mission in this lifetime. Who am I? Okay? And until you discover that and dive headfirst into that journey and take it wherever it leads you, expose your flaws, expose your shortcomings, expose your talents and your greatness too, without the preconceived, expose these things without constantly connecting it back to, well, but how will they perceive it? Will they perceive it as a good thing? Okay, great, I'm going to do this because they're going to perceive it as a good thing. Or, ooh, I'm not going to do that because I think that group might perceive it as a bad thing. Okay, it feels like you're constantly doing this. And your loved ones want you to be free, okay, and to liberate yourself from all of this and to find your own identity and own it, okay? But again, a lot of you will be connected still in some way to the family business, but in a more authentic way for yourself once you go on this discovery. And you've got a whole big group of ancestors, honestly, not a specific one, a whole group of them coming through. I bet if you all went to get like an aura picture taken, which those are so much fun. I ought to show you guys some. I've taken my aura picture like several times. I have a whole collection, but it's downstairs. But a lot of times when you take those aura photos, you'll see these little orbs of white light through the color that represent the guardians or angels that are with you. Most people will have like one or two that show up in the picture. But I feel like you guys would literally have like 5 or 6 or even just a whole layer of white up here, because that is how huge your team is that's behind you. They believe in you and they're here to help you find yourself. Okay, so let's take a look at the adjectives that they want you to embody or remember about yourself or practice this week or today. Okay, we've got 3. The first one that came out is introverted. Nice. Okay, so maybe this week and or even longer than this week, definitely today, this week, moving forward, take time for some introversion, because that's when you discover who you are. It's not about figuring out who you are based on how you interact with others. That's not going to lead you back to yourself and your identity. Okay, having time for yourself, read the self-help books, do the journaling, ask the tough questions, be in your own head, really allow yourself time to get in touch with you and who you are. So introverted, unique, yes, you guys are picking the perfect word, seriously. Look how unique you guys are. Look how unique you guys are. And grateful, grateful. It's time to be grateful for your own personal story, the journey that led you to this very pick a card today. It's time to be grateful for all of the things that make you unique, all of the things that make you the more introverted person that you are. It's time to be grateful for even the things that you don't like about yourself. You know why? Because they make you you. And it's time to be grateful for you. Stop being so grateful for your family, okay? I know that sounds crazy to say, but you guys are honestly a bit imbalanced in the fact that you're super, super grateful for your family, super obsessed, would go on and on to others about how great your mom is or your dad or your siblings or your grandparents, how much you love them. You don't do that for yourself because you don't feel that way about yourself. And it's time to start feeling grateful for you, all the great qualities that you have. in your own home, in your own time, okay? Not on social media, not in interactions with others, but are you truly grateful for yourself when it's just you? That's what it's time to start doing, you guys. So, an amazing team of ancestors came through for you all. A lot of you come from very prestigious and powerful families that are at least well known in their communities for what they do. Very cool that you come from that. And I can't wait to see, as you discover yourself, how you're going to utilize that ancestral past and the bloodline that you come from, the story that you come from, to carve out your own spot in the world. All right, best of luck to you all. Thank you so much for coming. I love you, and I'll see you at the next reading. Hi, Group 4, and welcome to your reading. So far, the messages have been very varied and different. I've had specific ancestors come through, groups of ancestors and loved ones come through, so I'm excited to see who comes through for you today and what they would like to say to you. We're going to start with the die, get into the cards, and then at the end, I have this bowl of adjectives that your ancestor or loved one would like you to focus on in the weeks to come, or just remember about yourself, who you truly are deep down. So let's start with the die. Okay, we have Neptune in Virgo in the second house. Interesting. So second house is about our money as well as our self-worth, our possessions, what we inherit, what we've inherited, like our assets, our talents. Virgo is a very sort of like critical, practical, of service sort of energy, and Neptune is very elusive, and that's also the word that I keep hearing come through. There's something very elusive. It feels almost slippery and kind of out of your grasp. There could even be, I don't want to say mental illness necessarily, because the second house isn't really associated with mental illness or even addiction, but it could be, you have this Neptunian quality, okay, that you share in common with the loved one that's wanting to come through. Very fantasy-like and imaginative on the positive end, very alluring, very, you could be an actor or an actress, a performer, you could love like plays and Disney movies and fantasy world. That's on the positive end. On the negative end, when those positive attributes aren't being expressed, it could feel as if you've inherited depression, inherited a low self-esteem, inherited an unawareness about the world, a lack of reality, or just something feels off. So there's a cloud here, and for some of you that could be caused from maybe this deceased loved one of yours. Maybe this was a recent loss for you. Maybe this is all very recent and you're still in this Neptunian clouded sort of state of, I could have done this differently, or they could have done this differently, or why didn't we do this, or why didn't I have enough money for that, or whatever it is, and they're just wanting to acknowledge this cloud. I literally feel this fog descending in my space as I'm speaking about this. Everything feels very cloudy and very lost, almost like you're walking through this dense fog. And in a fog, you can easily get scared when you hear something but can't see it. When you hear something incorrectly, or you don't know how close or far away anything is, it feels very scary, and it's hard to be grounded and practical when you're surrounded by a fog. How can you see straight? And they're wanting to acknowledge this sort of fog. It feels kind of like there's a mist around. Something with waters going on here as well. Maybe frequent baths or showers, or the ocean or something. Feels very elusive. So let's get into the tarot cards, and hopefully it can build on the die from there. Okay, the first tarot card is the Six of Swords. Then we have the Four of Cups, the Hierophant. This is Taurus energy. And then from my other tarot deck, we have the Hermit. This is Virgo energy. Virgo came up in the die. Yeah, there is a sense of loneliness, and it may not even be that you're literally lonely. There could be people all around you, but because you're in that fog, it feels very lonely, and I feel like there's a lot of soul searching going on that your loved one wants to acknowledge. It feels like there's a commitment that feels broken to you. Maybe you feel that God broke a commitment. The universe broke a commitment to you by pulling this person out of your life. That's what it feels like. Almost like you feel as if there's this higher authority, God, the universe, whatever you call it, that can't be trusted. You don't know what to trust. And that explains that Neptune foggy sort of energy. I do see depression here, or just a sense of apathy with this Four of Cups. You can see this woman doesn't even want to acknowledge the cups that are in front of her. She just wants to sit next to her tree and just be left alone. She doesn't want to be bothered at this time. And it feels like she's thinking about this past here. Some of you may be foreign in the country you're currently in, or you may have immigrated, or been a refugee of some sort, or been involved in a country that was ripped apart by war or a political divide. Like for a lot of you, it could have been, it almost feels like something bigger than you caused this feeling of loss. It didn't just come down to an issue, a personal issue with you and another person. It feels like something on a grander scale that's larger, and that's kind of what is leaving you lost in this feeling of what is the universe and what is God and what can even be trusted. So you're safeguarding by kind of just trying to keep some walls up for protection, and your loved one just wants to acknowledge that they see this deep sadness that's pent up inside of you, and they see this fog that you're in right now. And they also want you to know that even though the physical commitment may feel like it's been broken to you, that they are still with you. They're still committed to you and will be until the day that you die. They are with you. In those moments where you feel like you are wandering alone, surrounded by no one, that they are actually with you. This could have been a grandparent that you loved very much, or a parent, or a sibling, or this could have been anyone. But there's a level of unfairness here that those of you who chose this pile feel about the death and the passing of this person. Like this just feels wrong and unfair, and there's a lot of anger coupled with the sadness and just this big sense of confusion. It feels like there was a rush in the moment when this person passed, this rush to get away, to do what pack up the boat. Come on, let's get the heck out of here, or whatever's going on over here. Let's just do what we got to do. Get in the boat, go, 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 go. And your mind was like in this go, 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 go mode. Maybe making arrangements and funeral or whatever, moving, selling things. And I think that you felt in that moment that you were better off than the moment that you're in now, because your mind was on such a go, go, go at that point and in such a shock. It's almost like the worst of this loss is just now starting to sink in. You're just now having the time to really ruminate about this. And the loved one that's coming through is also for some reason wanting to acknowledge, they want to let you know that they're sorry too. And that may hit differently for each and every one of you, but they want you to know that they are sorry. They know on some level that it's almost like they feel like some sort of decision, they want to acknowledge that some sort of decision they made or some sort of path that they took kind of led to this detrimental outcome. And they want you to know that it's okay to be angry at them, and that they're still processing anger too, even though that they've passed and they're in this stage of healing and they moved on. They're still angry about things too, about the way things turned out. And so they want to let you know that I think for a lot of you that pick this pile, you may get angry or irritated when you hear people come up to you and say things like, oh, well, now they're with the angels, or they're in a better place, now they're going to be happier than they've ever been. Which those are all very common things for people to say when someone's passed. And I'm not saying they're not true. And for a lot of people, that's very comforting. But in situations where someone is lost in a very unfair way, like someone dies too young, or some sort of accident or murder or something, it's very hard to hear people say that and think, yeah, that makes me feel better. It's like, no, they're not in a better place, because none of this was actually supposed to happen, and I'm ticked off, and your deceased loved one is wanting you to know that, hey, I feel the same way too. So don't feel bad about feeling angry or irritated at the universe or the world or God or even me. They want you to know that, sorry, sometimes when I do these loved ones reading, the ancestors will come through and they'll put me in what they're feeling, and I get emotional. They want you to not feel guilty for whatever it is you feel towards them or otherwise. They want to release that from you and let you know that they understand all of the emotions, all of the grieving process that you had to walk through to get to where you are today, or to get to where you're going. And they also want to acknowledge like this unfairness about the situation. And they want you to know that they're your companion in this, that it almost feels like there's a sibling sort of energy here and the closeness between you and this person, okay? It doesn't mean that they are a sibling, but you know how siblings have this sort of, they know everything about one another. They experience life together. There's an equality in the relationship, and it feels like that's what they have with you. And they're showing me images of you maybe crying this out in your bed or in the car driving, and they're showing me how they're next to you in those moments, and that they don't hate it when you cuss at the world or cuss at them or have this. They don't. They're just there because they get it. They're like, I get it. Like, I'm on the same level as you. I get it. And so they just want you to know that you're not alone, even if you feel alone in this. That if, and they're even saying, like, if I could put myself in a human form right now, me and you could talk for hours about this and be on the exact same page. Like, I agree with you and everything you're feeling 10,000%. You have no idea. And they try to get this across to you through certain song lyrics, or maybe you watch a certain TV show and it brings up thoughts of the past. They try to communicate to you with those, in those ways, or with animals. God. Sorry. But they really, really miss being next to you in physical form. They do. They miss being able to physically comfort you. They miss it a lot. So they want you to know that they are fine. They're in their own healing process as well. They want to acknowledge that the both of you are grieving together. Or, you know, maybe this is something that really happened a long time ago, and for some of you, and I'm just going back through and acknowledging with them what happened, when it happened, in the months or a couple of years after this loss happened. There's something very equal that they keep wanting to point out. Like, just because I have passed on doesn't mean I'm now some superhuman sort of being that, you know, feels nothing and is just up singing in the heavens. They're wanting me to really acknowledge that they're still the exact same person, maybe with a slight shift in perspective. They definitely have had a perspective shift since things have happened, but they're still them, and they're still with you all the time. And they do have that hole that you feel from missing them. They want to acknowledge that they feel that same thing, that freedom and being able to interact as directly as you all used to. They feel that too, and that's okay. So, okay, let's get through the last 3 cards, and then we'll get to the words that they want you to remember about yourself, the adjectives. Okay, from the interactive deck, we have this card. From the surrender deck, we have surrender negative thinking. It says, you have control over your thoughts. When negative thoughts surface, say, thank you for sharing, and quickly refocus on positive affirmations. This again feels like that depression that's really hitting hard, okay? The anger and the negative thoughts, and your loved one that's coming through is almost wanting to say, like, hey, you know what, it'll be a lot easier if you just allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling and not beat yourself up for it. Like, allow yourself to feel angry at me if that's what you need to feel. Because it's almost like what sinks you down here is hating on yourself for the way that you're feeling. That's what sinks you down and makes it worse. Versus if you allow yourself to feel it and think whatever you need to think, and not hold so much in and just express it, whatever it needs to be, it's going to help lift that fog that's around you. Okay? They also want to let you know that there's someone they're trying to send into your life, or that they have sent into your life, maybe shortly after this all happened, that is supposed to be a gift from them and a source of joy and love for you. So I don't know if that's a new friend they've brought in, or a new child, some sort of new relationship. Oh my God, how am I going to post this? Freaking crying like a baby. That was a gift from them, because they love you, and they want to do what they can to try and not replace their loss, but just that connection. Okay? All right, let's look at the angel you guys have. Okay, we have the Angel Prince of the West. It says, I create the reality around me with thoughts of pure love and goodness. That's beautiful. So again, this is talking, it's connected to this card and talking about the thought patterns and the thoughts. So it's really, really important during this time to not block yourself to whatever you need to feel or think or say in that moment. Starting there is going to be a huge release for you. Scream it to the clouds if you want. Write a letter to this deceased loved one. Get it all out on paper. Do some sort of ritual or prayer. But most importantly, don't hate yourself for however you've handled this, or let go of all of that, okay? Stop being so critical. And remember, too, that this was not your fault. That's the other thing they're wanting to come through and say, and this may not apply to everyone, but for a lot of you, there's a sense of guilt tied up with this loss. This sense of, well, if I would have done this, if I would have done that, this wouldn't have happened. And your loved one really wants you to let go of that. It wasn't your fault, and it was never your responsibility. And there is nothing you could have done differently. They really want you to know that. There wasn't any amount of money, any phone call, there was nothing, okay, that could have been done. What happened is what needed to happen at that moment for whatever reason. And your loved one had to reconcile with that too, okay? And you're both in this together. You're not alone. All right, let's see if I can get through the last 3 words. Let's pull some words for you guys and see what adjectives your loved ones would like you to focus on. Okay, we got 4. Okay, the first one says organized. That goes well with that. That's a positive way to express that Virgo energy that came up in the die. Organizing things. Focus on organization in your life, helping clear out that fog that's around you by tangibly organizing your space. Hypnotizing. When I think of hypnotizing, that's very Neptunian too. These words are going really well together. How can you be hypnotizing? How can you dress up and get sexy and be alluring, or, I don't know, like go out and have some fun and be hypnotizing. Hypnotize the crowd. Integrous, so a person with integrity. How can you practice integrity over the next few weeks? This is something that your loved one, I think for some of you, had a hard time with, was having integrity, okay? And so they brought up that word to acknowledge that, while also allowing you to remember your own integrity and how you are a person that you really hold yourself to a higher standard as you should, and they want to remind you of that. And the last one is available. How can you be more open and available, not only for yourself, not only for your loved one that has passed, but to the people around you? Maybe instead of turning down that invite, say yes. Maybe instead of waiting for your cousin, your sibling, your parents to reach out to you, maybe practice reaching out to them first, even when you don't feel like it. These are the things that your loved one wants you to focus on and remember about yourself. You are a person that's very available for others. You're very organized. You're incredibly hypnotizing, and you have a lot of integrity. All right. And they love these qualities in you, and they admire them. They admire these qualities in you a lot. And more than anything, they just want to see you fulfilled and happy and at peace once again. Okay? All right, thank you so, so much for coming. I want to acknowledge your loved one that came through so strongly. It was hard to get through at times, but I hope I conveyed the message properly for you all. There's a lot of love and a lot of love and a lot of sadness all mixed in this pile and this reading, but boy, does this loved one care about you a great, great deal. They care about you a lot, and they wanted to get that across for you today. So I love you all so much, and I will see you in the next reading. Hi, group number 5, and welcome to your reading. I can't wait to see what loved one is going to be coming through for you today, or loved ones, or ancestors, and what messages they have for you. We are going to roll the die, get into the cards, and at the end of the reading, I have this bowl of adjectives that your loved one would like you to focus on or remember about yourself, either today or in the next few weeks, just words to connect to and keep in your mind. Okay, let's start with rolling the die. Okay, we have the South Node in Libra in the 3rd house. Actually, let me see if that's South or North Node. Yeah, that's the North. Yeah, South Node in Libra in the 3rd house. So the 3rd house is about our neighbors, like our very local community, things like neighbors, childhood friends. It's about elementary school and high school. It's also about our siblings. And so this loved one that's coming through could somehow be connected to you in that sort of way. Libra is about our one-on-one relationships as well, and also marriage. And South Node is about our past, our childhood up to the first 25 to 30 years of life. It's also about our past lives. So for some of you, the loved one that's wanting to come through is connected to you in a past life through your ancestry. Maybe you've been reincarnated through your ancestral line and this person was with you then. Or this is about someone that you lost in childhood or someone that you were connected to in your childhood, like a childhood friend or a cousin or a sibling, someone that you had some sort of close one-on-one relationship with, at least in the past. Maybe you lost them before adulthood or something, but we'll get into the tarot cards and expand on the die. So let's go ahead and get into those. Okay, we have the World. This is Saturn energy. Saturn rules Aquarius and Capricorn. Wow, 2 major arcana already. The High Priestess. This is associated with the moon, so mother or motherhood, as well as like Pisces and Cancer energy. And then we have the Page of Swords. This is air energy. It goes very well with that 3rd house and the Libra. So this is Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. And again, you can see this is a young child. So it's a younger energy that's coming through. And I don't know if that's because this person died at a young age. It could be that. Or it could be that this relationship that occurred with them happened during your younger ages. But there is a young, innocent energy with the person that's coming through for you, okay? And it's almost like they live between 2 worlds. With the World card and the High Priestess, it feels like, again, either they were lost before they entered the world. Maybe this was a pregnancy that was lost, a miscarriage, or an abortion that happened. Or it was someone that suffered with some sort of mental illness or addiction. So they kind of lived in and out of reality and non-reality, or the spiritual realm and the earthly realm is what it feels like. They were in between 2 worlds in some sense or some way. Maybe this was someone that was in a coma for a long time, or something interesting here. Very, very interesting. Okay, let's get into the last 2 tarot cards. They're from a different deck of mine. We have 8 of Swords, and this is more Libra energy. It says adjustment. Is that 8 of Swords? Yeah, it would have to be Swords. I actually haven't seen that card yet. And then we have, or you know what? This is the Justice card, I think. Yeah. Wow, you guys have like almost all major arcana. Okay, yeah, this is card number 8. So this is the Justice card. So that's strongly pure Libra energy. And then we have card number 16, which is the Tower moment. Like sudden shock, sudden loss, sudden destruction. It's interesting. For some of you, the deceased loved one that's coming through wasn't related to you in any way. This could have been, and maybe you guys weren't even super close, but it feels like this death affected you. You know, like maybe this was someone that you had dance class with when you were 8, 9, 10 years old. And, you know, so you knew of this, you know, little girl or little boy, weren't super close, but knew them. And then they maybe lost their lives in a car accident or something. And it was just this huge shock. So for some of you, it's not even someone that you were really personally connected to, but their loss really affected you. But yeah, with the Libra and the Tower, for some of you, this is some sort of, there's definitely, it's crazy because it's like there was a sense of balance, really good balance, everything looks good, everything's fine. And then that Tower moment comes in and it's just like boom, and just like, what the heck's going on? It's this really shook up your world and your perspective of the world. Like this loss or experience that you had in your life, it's almost like it shifted the trajectory of your entire future through this one incident. And for some of you, this incident had to do with trying to restore order. Like for those of you who came here to hear from your child that maybe you had an abortion or lost through abortion in some way, it's almost like at the time you were just trying to get things back into balance, thinking that that would calm the chaos. But then, you know, years later, afterwards, it's almost like in a way you feel like you've put yourself in permanent chaos with your decision or however it is you feel about it. I don't know, something interesting there. But this relationship with this loved one, it lives between both worlds, okay? In life and in death. And they want to acknowledge that. They hop back and forth between both worlds even now. They're frequently with you and around you or with their family, you know, whoever this is, they live in both worlds. And they don't want their loss to be viewed as just a loss because they're wanting to acknowledge that their presence is still very much here on earth. Some of you may have even, you know, actually physically seen things, seen this person or seen them in dreams or, you know, something like this. And they want to acknowledge that that is them and that they're not totally gone. They dip back and forth and in and out of the earthly realm and the spiritual realm. So very interesting. Let's look at the last row of cards here and maybe I'll get more information. Okay, so we have the little girl who looks scared and frightened. Looks like there's this big man coming towards her. We have a surrender to success. It says you are ready to experience abundance. Don't look back at previous roadblocks or difficulties. Leap into an exciting new world of possibilities. Yeah, it feels like this fear here that we see. I'm not picking up on anything about, you know, like this card. It's about childhood abuse experienced by parents or another. That could be the case for some of you, but what I'm mostly picking up on is the fact that this loss occurred for you in childhood and really it put a perspective of a lot of fear in you towards the world. It was like it was the first time that you had been confronted with death in a real way, had to acknowledge death and loss in a real way. And it was at an age in your life where I think you felt a little bit too young to be feeling or experiencing that. And it really made you fearful of the world. It really made you realize how dangerous life can be and how fleeting life can be. And so it's caused you to live with this fear of life in a sense. And that's what they're wanting to talk about in this surrender to success card, that they don't want you to live the rest of your life from the perspective of that 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old version of you. You know, you've grown older, you've evolved, you've matured. Don't continue to cling on to that fearful view of the world that you had as a child, being confronted with things that were a little bit beyond your age. And for some of you, that this incidents that I'm bringing up from childhood doesn't even have to do with the loss of this particular person that's coming through. Perhaps you lost them at an older age, but they are wanting to acknowledge something that happened to you in childhood that really brought this fear of the world into you, put a big fear into you. For some of you, you know, this childhood fear came with like a divorce, a very shocking divorce with that Libra energy as a child, and therefore no longer believing in marriage or being able to trust relationships or trust love in any way. And so therefore, when you got older perhaps, and you got pregnant, maybe accidentally, it really scared you and you didn't trust yourself to be able to take care of the baby or the other person involved. And this fear, this overwhelming fear that you've had since childhood is what led you to maybe give up the child for adoption or terminate the pregnancy or whatever you felt you needed to do in that moment. You really had your fear was really operating your mind. And I think it still is to this day. I feel like there's more examples than just what I'm saying. If you start to connect the dots, you'll start to see how, yeah, I do approach life with great fear. And so for those of you that this does have to do with a miscarriage or an abortion, the child is coming through strongly, wanting you to know that you should not feel guilty, harbor any guilt towards yourself or resentment towards yourself for the decision that you made, because they know and understand that that level of fear you were feeling about the world, about life, about the pain is what you were trying to protect them from. They understand the selflessness of your actions. Even though you had a skewed view of what was going on, right? The fear was blown out of proportion. You were doing what any parent attempts to do for their child. The best of parents just want to protect their child from the world. If they see danger, they go into action mode. For you, that danger wasn't a car driving too fast or a kidnapper coming to kidnap your kid or some dangerous predator like a bear or a snake coming after them. Those are that's just one single thing that needs to be tackled and eliminated. For you, it's literally the fear of life itself. Life itself in your mind is dangerous, is scary, is terrible. You can't trust anything. Who would want to bring a baby into that kind of world? No one. And so your child's just wanting to acknowledge that you truly were in a parental protective mode in that moment. And they don't want you to feel guilty for whatever decision you took in that moment of fear. They understand. And of course, that message doesn't apply to all of you, but the message that does apply to all of you is this view of life as something that can't be trusted and is extremely scary. And it's caused you to pull back from your own success because on some level you don't believe that success can really be achieved, or that maybe it's achieved and then it's ripped away. It's like balance can only happen for so long before the tower moment comes in. So why even try? There's just a lot of fear here. And your loved one that's coming through is really wanting to provide you true balance between the earthly and spiritual realm, okay, and balance in relationships. So balance in the earthly and spiritual, that would be, about achieving success, getting, doing the right things in the earthly realm, organizing your finances, getting a job that you like, keeping up with your chores and your day-to-day activities and your health. That's earthly things. And then the spiritual is that meditation, the therapy, the singing, the writing, the journaling, the dream interpretation, the prayer. Those are spiritual things. And your loved one is wanting to help provide you a balance with both instead of being in this scary fear mode. The fear mode in you is this little child within you that was scared long, long ago and has never been allowed to heal. And that's the little child that comes up within you when certain things happen in life that others wouldn't react so strongly to, wouldn't feel anxiety over or fearful over, but the little child in you feels a lot of fear, and then quickly reacts to do what it can to stay protected. And so that's what this loved one is wanting to acknowledge for you and help you to overcome, to have a shift in perspective on life and on yourself too. Okay, life isn't as scary as you feel it is, all right? And you have success that you're meant to surrender to here. Let's look at the angel card. Wow, okay, we have the angel of power. It says, the power of divine love protects and enfolds me. You don't feel powerful because you feel like this little child that can't protect itself from the fears of the big bad world. But you are extremely powerful. and it's time for some healing, definitely, and chasing after your success and going after some spiritual healing for yourself and harnessing your power, empowering yourself to move forward. And, yeah, there's going to be mistakes and, things aren't going to be perfect, but that's not scary. That's okay. That's just life. So anyways, your loved one, whoever this is, again, they feel like a much younger energy, like a childhood friend, or I don't know, or maybe that's your energy coming through. I don't know. There's something young and naive about this energy. Both of your energies do. It's almost like I'm communicating with a younger version of you and a younger version of this loved one. So that to me is signaling that there is an inner child work that's needed, an inner child healing that's needed here for you, for yourself. So let's look at the adjectives, see what your loved one would like to pull as far as adjectives go for you, things to focus on this week or remember about yourself or put into practice. Okay. The first one says materialistic. Okay, so perhaps a lot of you that chose this pile, it's talking about being out of balance between the spiritual world and the earthly realm. Perhaps a lot of you are out of balance and way too focused on this spiritual realm and neglecting the earthly realm. And so your loved one's like, you actually need to be a little more materialistic to help create that balance. Yes, care about money, organize the money, earn that money, dress nicely, like take care of your body, all these things that are associated with the material world. It's time to step more into that. I understand why there would be an imbalance and a leaning towards the spiritual, because the earthly realm is what you're so fearful of. That's what your inner child is fearful of. So it makes sense that you want to just cling to the more spiritual side of life. Okay, and then we have egoless. Practice being egoless, without an ego. The ego, when it's unhealthy, is where that fear-based thinking comes from, because the ego, which is basically our suit, our body, it's here to protect us, to ensure that we stay alive. So therefore, if a perceived danger is coming towards us, the ego is what kind of alerts us and makes us think, oh God, I got to get out of here. Whereas our spiritual self kind of understands that this is one of many lifetimes and no one really ever dies, and it's not even the earthly realm that's our real version of ourselves, it's the spiritual realm. So the spiritual self it doesn't react strongly to fear or things like this. It's the ego that does. And so practicing being a little bit more ego-less, letting go of those fears and the types of thinking that would go along with a fearful ego that's like in protection mode and fearful of everything, kind of letting a little bit of that go, being egoless. Okay, the next word is feminine. Practice being more feminine, or remember that you are a gentle feminine energy, and that's nothing to be fearful of. A lot of people who have a fear of the world or of others will lean into their more masculine energy, because the masculine energy is the protector, the fighter, the go-getter. The masculine energy is what attacks and fights back and pushes forward. And so you may have stepped more into that masculine energy as a protective measure, but your loved one is wanting you to balance that out with a more feminine, receptive, peaceful, calm sort of energy. Okay, and the last word is sassy, believe it or not. So be a little bit more sassy, a little bit more spunky, outspoken. You've got some great words: sassy, materialistic, and feminine, and ego-less. I love it. I want to thank your loved one for coming through and saying everything that they needed to say to you, and for allowing me to do this work and be a vessel of communication for the two of you. Thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed providing this reading for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one, okay? I love you guys. Hi Pile 6, and welcome to your reading. I can't wait to see what loved one or ancestor would like to come through for you and what they have to say. We're going to roll the die, look at the cards, and then at the end of the reading I have this bowl of adjectives, of words that your loved one would like you to focus on in the coming weeks, or remember about yourself, or acknowledge within yourself. So with all that being said, let's roll the die. Okay, we have Pluto in Cancer in the 7th house. Interesting. I don't know if this is directly related to the loved one that's coming through. It may just be something they want to talk about with you, but there's some sort of kind of explosive transformation going on right now in your marriage life and your parenting life, or something that occurred in childhood that mirrors that, or perhaps occurred in childhood and now you see it mirroring in adulthood. I feel that this ancestor is from your maternal side. Could be like a grandmother or a great aunt. Doesn't have to be, but there's some sort of transformation taking place. And I also feel that there is this is the first time this has come up, but I feel that there's some sort of reincarnation process going on right now through your mother's ancestral line. Like perhaps this was a grandmother that you lost, and now they're going to reincarnate as a child. Like maybe you're giving birth or something like that. Something I keep seeing like a full circle being drawn. You know, when they say things have come full circle, something like that is going on that they want, and they feel excited to talk about this. Okay, something exciting is happening here. So let's look at the tarot. Okay, we have 4 of Swords. Ooh, the Moon. That's Pisces as well as Cancer energy. We have 8 of Cups. 7 of Wands, and then from my other tarot deck, we have Mother of Earth. Okay, this was kind of the image of what I was seeing, this ancestor coming through, this grandmotherly sort of energy. So perhaps this is the ancestor coming through for you. If not, Mother of Earth, that's Queen of Pentacles. So that's Earth energy, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. But that definitely does feel like their energy. Something I'm noticing in all of these cards that happen to come out is these are all cards in which the person is alone, right? I mean, there's always an angel in the picture because it's the angel tarot, but the human is not with any other humans. Not in this card, not in this card, not in this one, and not in this one. So there's some sort of psychological transformation going on with you all that your ancestor is wanting to acknowledge, and they're literally like clapping. They are clapping for you. I feel like you've been down on yourself, and that's why they brought you to this reading. Because, you know, things do feel dark when we're in that Pluto transformation phase, but they're saying like you're about to come out the other side of all of this like a butterfly. And it took so much bravery and courage to do what you needed to do, and you've done it. And they're just so elated. I'm feeling a lot of celebration and excitement going on, at least on their end, and they're wanting to convey that to you to help uplift your spirit. I see that you've been kind of like reevaluating yourself and reevaluating your life and calculating all of your choices. And you've also been really stepping back into the past, especially in regards to your connection with your mother, what motherhood means, who are you as a mother, and what does that mean? And that's a lot of scary psychological work, maybe a lot of nightmares, or maybe there's been panic attacks, or, you know, maybe there's been some depression going on as you work through this, but you are on the right path. There was a lot that you left behind recently to go and fight for something new. And I feel like a lot of people watched you walk away from all of these cups and said, what the hell are you doing? Are you crazy? You're going to walk away from all of that? And you really were tapped into and listening to not only your own intuition, but your ancestors, your spirit guides, God, as they pushed you to do this. And you took those steps. And there is, I definitely feel like there's a feeling of defensiveness surrounding you at this time. Like you feel like a lot of people are judging you and hating on you and your choices. But you truly are doing what was meant to be done in this lifetime, which was stepping into courageousness and bravery, independence, and not only that, but also healing some things from the past, acknowledging your own mistakes and your own faults, so that you can do better in the future. And ultimately, you're trying to find a place of joy and happiness. You want to craft a life for yourself that doesn't feel dead and empty inside. That's what you're after, and how can that be wrong? I feel like a lot of you that chose this pile lived in a very dead and empty feeling life for decades or longer. And only now or recently have you decided like enough is enough. I've got to find my passion, my excitement. I got to live a life that feels authentic to me and who I am. And your ancestor, your loved one, is wanting to, I mean, they're literally like bowing down to you. Like, you are doing it. Things feel tough, but I promise they're going to feel better soon. And the fight is going to be worth it. At the end of your life, when you look back on this time, you're going to feel very proud and content with yourself. And so I keep saying she, it doesn't have to be a she. It does feel very like a feminine energy, but they want you to feel proud of yourself, because they definitely feel proud of you. Okay, let's look at this last row of cards here. All right, we've got the Scientist. This always gives me like Aquarius sort of vibes. That feels like your previous energy. And then on the Surrender deck, we have Surrender to Effortlessness. And we have this looks like, you know, what, like a circus performer or Cirque du Soleil performer. This is a very like artistic energy and a spiritual energy, which contrasts with this energy. So it feels like previously you were living in a very scientific sort of mind where everything's just an equation that needs solving. No emotions at all, no creativity, no spirituality. Like, let me just write down the numbers and calculate what makes sense and what needs to be done, like all logic minded, right? Which can be exhausting and tiring, to sit there and calculate and pros and cons and blah, 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 when you actually have your own intuition that you can tap into that can guide you through life. Not only that, but you have this deep well of creativity within you that was unacknowledged or shoved away for way too long. Your spiritual self, your soul, was pushed away for so long, and you're just now starting to tap back into it. And your life is about to be so much more beautiful than you ever thought it could be in your wildest dreams. Beautiful. Like, I'm seeing lots of flowers. I'm seeing lots of play. I'm seeing lots of kisses and hugs. I'm seeing lots of laughter. I'm just seeing like a lot of nature and a lot of joy and peace. And that's all because of your own efforts. And your ancestor, this loved one, is extremely proud of you and wants you to know that. Okay, let's look at the angel that came through. It's the guardian angel of young adults. It says, I am guided and protected as I begin to choose my path in life. So for some of you, you are young adults, early 20s, right? Maybe making choices for college and how you're going to carve your path in life, and your ancestor is proud of the steps that you've taken. For a lot of you, I feel like you are not a young adult, maybe your 30s, 40s, 50s, even older, but you are just now stepping into that experience of the young adult, which is, hey, what do I want to do with my life? Where do I want my path to take me? Let me start taking steps towards that. Whereas before, maybe in your early years, you didn't get a chance to be a young adult. A lot of your choices and options were taken away from you or chosen for you. So you never got that sense of autonomy to build and create a life that feels good for you. And the universe is gifting you with that ability at this time. So keep pushing forward. Don't waste it. Focus on what feels good. Focus on your creative path. Okay, finding your shine and your spark and your passion and zest for life. Make it as crazy and wild and out there as you want it to be. This ancestor, this loved one, is extremely proud of you and doesn't want you to feel like you have to follow this straight and narrow path of get married by this age and never get divorced and have this many kids and have them by this age and live in the same house for 40 years and have the same job for 40 years. No. Your loved one's like, that's not for you. And I was just sitting back and waiting for you to realize it and hoping that you would be brave enough to do what you needed to do to break away and start something new. And they want to acknowledge how difficult that was because, you know, there's a lot of people and things attached to you that you had to push away or give away or maybe even hurt. You know, maybe this decision hurt others, but it was what needed to be done. Okay? So you have done nothing wrong. You're on a deep spiritual journey to find yourself and find your joy and find out how truly effortless life should be for you, how it should just flow so nicely. There's nothing that you need to calculate or think logically about. It should just flow, and really just surrendering to the flow and the ecstasy of life. Okay, so let's look at what words your loved one would like you to focus on in the weeks to come. Okay. The first one is silly. So how can you be a little bit more silly and playful and lighthearted? How can you get out of your head over the next few weeks? Don't overthink anything. Go with your gut. Go with what feels good. Play around a little bit, as well as comforting. So tapping into the emotions through comfort, self-comfort, comforting through others, receiving love and affection from others, giving it to others, and complimentary. So dishing out compliments to friends and family and dishing out compliments to yourself. Instead of looking at what you've done wrong, how can you look at what you've done right and give yourself credit, compliment yourself for that, own it. Okay, beautiful. I can't wait to see where your life is going to take you from here, because I feel like it's like the roller coaster is just beginning for you. You know, you've been in that line to the roller coaster for too long, for decades too long. You've just been in that line, just looking around and trying to keep yourself occupied and not bored. But it's like you are now in that seat and the roller coaster's going up like this. And it's about to be very exciting and creative and fun. And again, your ancestor is so proud of you and just applauding and cheering and with signs and everything. Okay. I love you guys so, so much. Thank you for coming. I want to thank your loved one for coming through as well and allowing me to be a vessel of communication between you and them. It was so, so enjoyable, and I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you in the next reading. Bye. Hi, group number 7. Welcome to your reading. I'm excited to see what ancestor or loved one would like to come through for you. And I'm going to let you know that I was actually planning on doing 6 piles, but there was a specific ancestor that came through and asked me to do this 7th pile. So I'm kind of expecting that this will be the pile that the least amount of people choose. I feel like this is going to be the smallest group because it started feeling very specific and very kind of niche as I was pulling through the cards. And I was getting lots of imagery of fire as well as like water and mud. So we'll see how that comes through as the reading progresses. There also was a more masculine energy, at least as I was shuffling through the cards. We'll see if that stays true as I go through the reading. But we're going to look at the die and then the cards, of course. But at the end of the reading, I have a bowl of words, they're adjectives that your loved one or ancestor would like you to focus on in the weeks to come or remember about yourself. So, okay, let's start with the die. Okay, we have, wow, Jupiter in the 9th house in Sagittarius. So Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and Jupiter also rules the 9th house. So this is like the most uniform combination of die that I've had in all of the piles. Jupiter in the 9th house in Sagittarius. So the 9th house is about foreign travel. It's about college education. It's about like the bigger picture of life, the bigger zoomed out view of life, and how expanded that can feel and spontaneous. And Jupiter itself is about expansion, acceleration, and growth. And Sagittarius, you know, that's the sign of the archer that aims and shoots. So yeah, there's energy of like foreign lands here because all of these things are associated with foreign travel, foreign lands. And so we'll see how, well, 9th house is also associated with religion and our religious views and ideals. Okay, let's flip over the tarot and get a closer look. All right, we have the 7 of Cups, the 2 of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles. This is Earth energy, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And then for my other tarot deck, we have the Ace of Fire. So for some of you, I feel that that Ace of Fire, I don't know, it feels like for some of you, this loved one was lost to fire in some form. Fire or even water or a mixture of both, okay? So they could just be saying that just to confirm that this message is from them. But there is this sense of, if you'll notice, both people in these cards are looking up. This man is looking up at the cups above him, and this woman is looking up at the pentacles above her. So they're looking up, like towards God, towards the universe, as they're considering these options. They haven't picked a choice yet, right? They're kind of juggling the ideas and not really having any forward movement. There's a sense of stagnancy here, a lot of overthinking or dreaming about the possibilities. It feels like you guys may be dreamers in some sense. Maybe you're really into like psychedelic sort of drugs, like, I don't know, weed or shrooms or something that puts you in this sort of imaginative, dreamlike state or experience. But there's not forward movement. And this ancestor or loved one is wanting there to be forward movement in some sense, which the ace of fire, ace of wands, represents that, like taking that wand, that fresh energy, and just going, that passionate, you know, Sagittarius, ninth house, go and do sort of energy. I think for a lot of you, you are meant to really live in a foreign land and expand your worldviews that way. I feel like a lot of your abundance, even your marriage partner, is going to be found in foreign lands, foreign travel, learning another language. Or for others of you, this could be about getting that master's degree that Sagittarius can represent, or finding a religion that really speaks to you. But this ancestor or loved one doesn't want you to live fully in just this dreamy, imaginative state. They're ready to see action. You know, they want you to do something. And the Queen of Pentacles, she is very focused on the material realm. She is focused on her abundance. How do I create abundance in my life? Material wealth for myself. She's very practical and very grounded. And groundedness is needed right now for you all. It's kind of like the kite, for example. For it to fly successfully, it has to be rooted as well. You know, it needs a person on the other end holding that string and that line so that it can truly soar and fly. So while I see that you all are meant to fly and soar and accomplish your big dreams and goals that may seem kind of far out, you can't start flying until you first ground yourself and get into a very practical energy, even as practical as like having to-do lists, having, you know, the organization and a schedule. Something like that needs to happen to pull you out of this constant, you know, sort of dreamy state of mind. Okay, let's look at the second row of cards. Okay, so we have the little boy with the world on his shoulders. You can see he's feeling very weighed down. Very weighed down. We have surrender to wonder and awe. It says, open to the magic of every moment and sense the awe and wonder in all of life. This attitude will keep you connected to the ecstasy of flow. So on some level, I think the reason why you may have a tendency to seek out this dream state is because dreaming about the possibilities, there's nothing but bliss in that experience. You can imagine it however you want to imagine it, you know, soak up whatever you want. There's no sense of reality or groundedness. I think it's because on some level there's a fear that the reality is always disappointing or is too overwhelming or is too much to bear. And perhaps your day-to-day reality already feels that way. And so that's why you feel this need to kind of escape through dreaming or through psychedelics or, you know, whatever it is. It could just be the internet for you. Like, let me just research, let me just learn a little more and not take the action because there's a fear here. And there's also this fear or this feeling of, it's not necessarily fear, it's like feeling burdened, feeling overwhelmed. It's really taken away a lot of joy for you, and that's what this card is talking about, surrendering to the wonder and the awe of what is around you and the actions that you take. Instead of just surrendering to the wonder and awe and the possibilities, surrendering to the wonder and awe and what's right now around you, like getting really tangibly in touch with your surroundings and connecting to them on a personal level is going to be important for you at this time. And this loved one that's coming through, this message is really important to them because they themselves felt defeated by this energy. They themselves were some sort of a dreamer. And they either, that fire could be about burning too brightly, too strongly, and then burning out is what they did, or that water that I'm also seeing could be about them eventually kind of drowning in themselves and that overtaking them. But this loved one, yeah, they had an issue or a problem in taking the appropriate action when needed, or getting things together and in order. And they left this world with a lot of regret. And they don't want that for you. They don't want you to live your life with regret. They want you to take action for yourself and live life with a passion and an excitement, as well as a groundedness and a rootedness. So that's kind of the main thing that's coming through. It feels like it took them a long time to really let go of the life that they lived here and allow themselves to move forward, to go to heaven, or whatever you would, like to call it. Almost feels like they were in a ghost-like state for a long time, because that can happen when souls aren't ready to let go of that life, when they're still clinging to that old life because they feel like there's loose ends that haven't been tied up. They feel like, or they feel too guilty and unworthy to move on because they look at their life and think, oh, well, I didn't do anything right. Who am I to get to move on from this and go on to something better and fresh and back into the spiritual realm where I'm meant to be? It almost feels like they felt so ashamed and so much guilt for everything that they didn't get to do or that they didn't get to say, that it held them down here on earth in some sort of spiritual form for a long time. And they don't want that for you. They want you to live your life and die feeling peaceful with the life that you led, feeling accomplished, feeling happy with all the things you explored and experienced, all the places you traveled, all the things that you learned. They don't want you to live life in regret or end this lifetime thinking, man, I wish I had done it all differently. Okay, so they just want to really send that message to you, like how much it weighs you down to not follow through for yourself and to not take action for yourself. Like the weight of that lives on past just this lifetime. And so they want to acknowledge the importance of it. They seem to feel that they need to communicate the need, not just the want or the desire or the wish to accomplish this, that, or the other. They really want you to translate it into a need. Like, I have to do this. This isn't a what if or I wish I could. This is a have to. This is a need. Just like I have to drink water every day, just like I have to or I need to get 8 hours of sleep. They want you to start putting this list of things that you sometimes dream about doing into that need, that necessary box, because it truly is needed for that inner peace and sense of accomplishment. Okay, let's look at the angel you will have. We have Archangel Raphael. It says, I am strengthened and healed by the power of divine love. That's beautiful. It even has the water with the little fish. So your loved one could have been a Pisces or a Sagittarius, especially with the die that came up. And it feels like they're saying that for them to finally move on from this lifetime and go into the next, or go up with their angels and their loved ones, they really had to practice self-love and have empathy for themselves and grace and forgiveness for themselves. But that took a long time to work through. They don't want you to have to work backwards like they did. If you start out each day with true love for yourself, what's the advice you would give to yourself? What would you tell yourself to do? What would you make yourself do if you were your own parent, for example? So practicing self-love through your actions, what you eat, what you drink, when you go to bed, what you do for a living, what you accomplish, where you travel, like really showing love for yourself. Like, hey, you know what? I love myself, and that's why I'm going to make sure that I reach my potential. And so that you don't have to work backwards after you've passed on. Because they really felt stuck for a long time in that guilt and that shame. They had to learn how to love themselves. And they now realize that if they had loved themselves in the lifetime that they had led, then everything would have gone completely differently. Like, that to them is the root cause of all of it. I didn't have enough love for myself and belief in myself and care for myself to make sure that I lived a life I was proud of, to make sure that I lived a life that I felt worthy of attention, praise, achievement, accomplishment. I had to learn that after I passed on, and that took years or decades or whatever. And so they don't want you to have to go through that same experience. So there's a lot on the to-do list, a lot on the bucket list, I guess, that's meant for you. and they want you to start taking action on that now, and starting with the smaller things so that you can get to those big, lofty sort of goals. Smaller things as in diet, health, day-to-day life and activities, chores and organization, service to others, all these things that ground us. Okay, let's see what 3 words they want to pull for you. And it still does feel like a more masculine sort of energy. For some of you, this could have been like a male cousin or a great uncle. Oh, we got all 3 of those. Something like that. Okay, so the first word is kind. How can you show kindness to yourself today and to those around you, and practice kindness every day through the way that you talk to yourself, through the actions, more specifically through your actual actions. So not so much, complimenting yourself, but your ancestor really wants to tie this all back to actions, tangible. How can you show kindness to yourself through your actions today? Actions like, what are you going to eat? How are you going to organize your day in a way that shows kindness to yourself? And doing that for others through tangible actions. Okay, the second word is mystical. That's very Jupiter and Pisces. You guys naturally feel very mystical to me, actually. I don't think that's going to be a hard thing for you to practice or remember. But yeah, remember that you're magical, you're mystical, you are so much more than just your imagination in your head. Like, you don't need to imagine yourself into something great or amazing. You already are. And getting in touch with that mystical side to yourself and living it day to day in a very tangible, present way is going to be important for you. And the last one, which I am not surprised to see at all, is adventurous. And that's completely Sagittarius, Jupiter, 9th house, Ace of Fire, adventurous. Do something you've never done before. Try something you've never tried. Travel somewhere you've never been. Switch up something. Maybe there's a lot of things you've written off as, no, I don't think I would like that. No, that's not for me. Be a little bit adventurous and spontaneous over the next few weeks. Get out of your comfort zone and go for it. Do something, that maybe is a bit scary or that you're unsure of. It's going to liberate you when it's done. So I believe in you. Your loved one believes in you and really wants to convey that. They're really here for you to make sure that you don't follow the same path that they did, that you don't make the same mistakes that they did. They really feel like they learned a lot living their life, and then in death, they had to work through and learn and heal a lot, and they deeply wanted to share that knowledge and wisdom with you. They want to make sure that you live a life that you're proud of, that you feel successful in, okay? And that's why they're here for you. And they want you to communicate with them as often as you need to, even if you don't know which ancestor this is that came through. Just acknowledge them, communicate with them. They want to talk to you. They want to convey messages to you through meditation, perhaps, through journaling, through dreams, okay? They're talking to you often. They are there. They are around you. Thank you so, so much for coming to this reading. I want to thank your ancestor, your loved one, for coming through as well and providing some really amazing messages for group number 7. I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you in the next reading. Bye.